Okay, we're reading from this book right here. That's what it looks like. And we're in part 3, story 2, God's Shipbuilder. That's what this says. And there's nothing right now to show you. I'll just go ahead and read. Part 3, story 2, God's Shipbuilder. Looking for someone to tell the people what he was planning to do, God thought of Noah, last of 10 old patriarchs, now nearly 500 years old. Keen, alert, and vigorous, he was one of the wisest men of his day. Moreover, amid all the evil about him, he remained loyal to God and the right. The Bible said Noah was a just man and perfect in his generation, and Noah walked with God. In this, he was like Enoch, and no doubt that is why God chose him for his most important task and finally saved him and his family from the flood. But you gotta think, Enoch was his great grandpa. Well, not great. It's one of Enoch. He was part of Enoch's line. Okay, let's get back to this. Just what Noah's unusual work was, we are not told. Perhaps he was a farmer, like so many of his relatives, but he may have been a builder. Perhaps a boat builder, for by the time people surely had boats of many kinds on their beautiful lakes and rivers. Certainly he was a great designer, or he never could have carried out God's instruction by building the ark. And of course, go to the next page, and it's got down at the bottom, that's the full page illustration. One day, one of the greatest days in history, God came to Noah and said, "The end of all flesh is come before me, for the earth is filled with violence. Behold, even I, do bring the flood waters upon the earth, to destroy all flesh, wherein is the breath of life. From under the heaven and everything that is on the earth shall die." Oh, King James. Ugh. This must have been a saddened to, oh, this must have saddened the old man. He knew many people about him were very wicked, and they needed to be punished. But the destruction of everybody and the whole beautiful world, that was something too dreadful to think about. But even as God spake of punishment, he told of a way out that all could take if they wished. "Make thee an ark of gopher wood," he said. An ark, that meant something that would float. A ship, as we would say. But would it be large enough to hold all who might want to find refuge in it? Noah might have been amazed at the figures God gave him to work on. It was no small boat that he had in mind, but a huge vessel, big as a modern battleship. It was to be 600 feet long, 100 feet wide, and 60 feet high, almost as big as some of the ocean liners today. The United States, pride of the U.S. merchant fleet, is 990 feet long, 101 feet 6 inches wide, and 122 feet from keel to top. It was 12 decks, and the crews of 1,000 in war could carry 14,000 soldiers. Oh, interesting about the United States. The boat. They throw tidbits in here from 1953. Why did God ask Noah to build so large a vessel? For first, because he wanted every single soul that knew there was room for him in that ark if he wished to be saved. Second, because he planned to preserve a great number of birds and animals on it. Third, because he knew it would have to ride out the worst storm and the roughest sea of all time. After Noah was alone, he must have thought a long time about what God asked him to do. What about trees would have to be cut down and hauled to the building site? Gopher wood especially. Imagine all the sawing, planning, and shaping that would have to be done, and all the men that would have to be hired and paid. It was a huge task for a man to tackle, any man to tackle. And then Noah must have wondered what everybody would have think when they saw him building a ship 600 feet long. Most likely they would say he is out of his mind, throwing his money away on a crazy idea. But thus did Noah, according to all that God commanded him, so he did. People who do this, people do just that, regardless of what others may think of them when they are walking with God. So Noah started to work, drawing the plans, preparing the lumber, and laying the keel. At first, the neighbors probably didn't take much notice, but as the years went by, and one by one of the great wooden ribs of the vessel was secured into place, it became clear that it was a ship and not a barn that he was building. They began to make fun of him. How they laughed, for they could see, and that's where that page ends. And let me show you the bottom illustrations. The bottom page illustration. Let's go. For they could see no reason for building such a thing. What would anybody want with a boat this big? And they probably felt quite sure it wouldn't float anyway, even if Noah could get it to water. No tide to explain, but it was no use. As people flocked to watch him work, he warned them of the flood that was coming, and how God had told him to build a place of refuge for those who wanted to be saved. And more he tried to explain, however, the more they mocked him. But he went on building and preaching just the same, while the years, and at last a few years of the beautiful world slipped away. And then, of course, it has the illustration of them making fun of him at the bottom. There it is. And that's part 3, story 2. And we're going to read the next one coming up.